I've now been running ads for well over 4 years. I've been in the e-commerce space, the local business space. I've worked with SaaS companies, info product companies, marketing agencies, name it. I've been profitably spending over $9.6 million on ads every single year for the last 4 years. And I've compiled most of my knowledge and learnings into this one single video to give you a knowledge-packed video if you're trying to learn or improve your Facebook ad skills. If you're new to the channel, you don't yet know who I am. My name is Justin, and I'm the founder at paidadvertising.com, an online marketing growth firm specializing in elevating thriving businesses by simplifying online marketing. So with that being said, let's get straight into it. So first things first, marketing is a bridge. Now, marketing is a bridge that brings the customer from their current state to the product. You can replace the word product by the word service or software, perhaps. It works the same way. Marketing, and in this case, an ad on Facebook, is this bridge that brings someone from a current state of mind to the product in itself. Now, there are 5 levels of market awareness, which kind of brings and ties point 1 and 2 of this video together. Now, those 5 levels of market awareness are unaware, problem aware, solution aware, product aware, and most aware. Now, the bridge's goal is to bring someone who is perhaps unaware to solution aware, to make them product aware and push them over the bridge. So in other words, you could think of marketing as a magnet. And that sums up essentially my first 2 points of this video and kind of brings me into the third point, which is it's all about the product. Now, I've tried to advertise everything out there. And again, I've tried every platform. I've spent millions on Facebook. I've spent millions on Google, on TikTok, also on Traffic Junkie, right? Where you run ads on the hub, to say the least. And with that being said, it all comes down to the strength of the product. Now, a great product, barely needs any marketing. Now, this is actually why you'll see tons of companies doing great with ads when only running product aware ads, which means all they do is they focus heavily on the product and not on the audience. And we'll talk more about that later in today's video. But with that said, that can work so as long as the product is incredibly strong and superior to what the competition has to offer, or if you're advertising in a very unsophisticated market where there's not a lot of competition in itself. Now, it's much easier to work with a business that has a blue ocean market, which again, barely any competitors, or perhaps has such a superior offering that it's just inevitable for the product to attract customers. Now, as the video goes by, we'll get more and more into actionables here. I'm talking about larger concepts now that I've learned through the last few years. This brings me to my next point, which is targeting in itself is now pretty much outside of our hands. The ad platforms are handling the targeting. They're handling most of the campaign structure in itself too. You got to keep things simple. One of our core values at the agency is actually KISS. So it's keep it simple, stupid. It's an acronym in itself. So with that being said, what this means in the context of ads is to have as few campaigns as possible. So to have as little amount of campaigns as possible, to have essentially a consolidated targeting structure, which in this case means going broad. When I say broad, it means focusing on demographics only. So age, gender, location, letting the algorithm decide who to show ads to. Now, that brings us back years down the timeline where essentially when you think about some of those quote unquote OG marketers, such as Eugene Schwartz right here that wrote Breakthrough Advertising, or you have another book by Eugene Schwartz, which is The Brilliance Breakthrough, or you may have Ogilvy on advertising right here too. We're all talking about guys that were alive in the 50s. They just thrived with marketing and they only had either a typewriter or pen and paper to make up essentially for their marketing skills, or to as a medium if you want to express their marketing skills. Now, how were they able to convert millions of eyeballs and make tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in the process, only by writing with words, right? One would argue that today this would be impossible, right? We have ads, you got to make videos, you got to make UGC, it all comes back to the strength of the ad creative itself. And too many people forego like all control over the creative part, and they focus on the wrong levers, which means they'll focus on targeting the right people. They'll focus on having the perfect campaign structure, on all these targeting hacks and tricks. Whereas truthfully, the one thing you should control, at least the 2 things you should control, is product, which when I say product, it's also offer, and the ad creative itself. really the only two things that matter. I've seen the worst campaign structures, or perhaps I've seen people mistakenly choosing the wrong campaign objective, meaning they want to get more sales to their e-commerce store, but they're going to pick a traffic campaign thinking that this is going to get them more sales. And here's the truth. Even if you pick a traffic campaign, if you have a strong product, you will get sales. It will happen. It's a byproduct of sending more people to the website. Whereas what I think is worryful is when people pick a traffic campaign, they're not getting any sales and they're like, yeah, it's probably because it's not the right campaign. Well, look, would choosing a better campaign type help you in this case? Probably. Is this the only solution to fixing your business? Probably not, because just the law of numbers, or the law of volume, just kind of says that if you threw enough people to your website, you inevitably should find some customers that would convert. So now creative is the new targeting. Now, what that means is your creative is the one thing that helps you find your customers online. The one thing that you should be putting at the forefront, the one thing that your team should be putting most of their time and effort towards helping you get better at, is that ad creative process. Now, making better creatives helps you, first of all, when you make a video ad as an example, you might call out the audience, right? You might say homeowners under the age of 35 or whatever, right? Or first time homeowner, well, you should listen to this. Or are you a girl between 18 and 25, right? Algorithm listens. Every single video ad you make, there's a transcript that Facebook, or TikTok for that matter, is able to read from and is able to analyze in order to find you the right people. Not only that, there's search intent amongst the users. That's why our platforms track you kind of everywhere around the web. They look into your browsing history in order to better match your advertising experience with what you may or may not actively be looking for. And it's not to say, well, because you looked at a red pair of shoes, that suddenly you're going to see a bunch of red pair of shoes, although this is true. You both know that if we're on social media, right? But it is to say that, well, if I'm looking actively about how to grow my e-commerce business, then I'm probably in a good position to receive solution-aware ads that might start with the hook that says, hey, have you heard about this way of growing your e-commerce business? Like, have you tried Google ads and it didn't work yet? Well, that's because you haven't yet tried fundamentally based Facebook ad creatives, right? That's would be a somewhat solution-aware hook. So with that being said, the type of transcript that Facebook will be able to analyze, or the type of like video ad you'd be able to run, Facebook will be able to match that with someone's browsing experience and find you the right person. So seriously, people tend to not believe me when I tell them it's literally as simple as making better ad creatives. Now, it's not to say that making good ad creatives is easy. It's just to say that focus on the 20% that brings you 80% of the results. And in this case, from an ads perspective, it is the creative itself. Another learning I've had is I was surprised over the last few years by the sheer amount of business owners who are not savvy with their unit economics. They don't know how finances work in their business. Hell, most of them are months, if not years, late when it comes to bookkeeping. So that's for the ones that actually keep track of their books, quite frankly. Believe it or not, I've seen many business owners just not even having books or records, and they just don't really know or know approximately whether or not they're profitable. And that to me is just mind-blowing, because when I think about paid advertising, it's one of these machines where it's supposed to be at least money in, money out. Well, for it to be a money in, money out type of machine, you must know what needs to come out, right? If you're just putting money in and hoping to get money out, then that's called a casino, right? I've been to Vegas a few weeks ago, and that's kind of what I did. I put money in, cranked the wheel, hope more money came out, and more often than not, I lost money. Same thing happens with most advertisers, which is why they lose money. They don't know what they're aiming for. My biggest piece of advice is to know what you're aiming for when advertising. So would you be aiming to get a purchase? Would you be aiming to get new customers? Would you be aiming to book calls? Whatever it is, know the metric you're aiming for and know what cost you're aiming for and know how to track that, right? It's very simple. If you're thinking about an e-commerce business, right? Well, most e-commerce business would say that they're aiming to get more purchases. Okay, so we're clear on that. But now, what type of purchase do you want? You want new customer purchases, or you want just returning customer purchases? Well, again, if your goal is growth, then your goal probably is new customer purchases. Okay, so what metric closely resembles like new customer purchase attribution? Well, Facebook doesn't really give you that, but you can get that with a third-party tracking solution like TripleWall. Okay, great. So now I know I need to get TripleWall, or else I'm going to be blind to this data, right? Someone can't say I'm actively trying to optimize my new customer purchases and not be able to track this data. So, okay, now I can track this data. Well, how do I know what is my new customer CPA, so my cost per acquisition I'm looking for, or my CAC, right? My customer acquisition cost. Well, for that, I need to know my product's unit economics. I need to know essentially how much is it costing me to supply myself for one of my products? How much is shipping and fulfillment? Now, how much is my operating expenses? And from there, I can approximate what is, and from there, I can realistically, very accurately approximate what CAC I should be aiming for with my marketing for me to make a profit, right? So that's just an e-commerce example, but the same would be true with lead generation. The same would be true with booking calls. The same would be true with getting app installs. So any other ad event, know your numbers. I am telling you, know exactly what you are aiming for. Have a North Star metric. Everyone listening to this video advertising, if I asked you right now in an elevator, what are you optimizing for with Facebook? Would you have an answer? If the answer is yes, what is that number exactly looking like and how did you come with this number? Would you have an answer? If you do not, then there is a problem, because I've met tons of business owners where I asked them, what are you optimizing for? ROAS. Okay, how much? 3x. Great. Where does 3x come from? Well, I think it's a good number. Like, I've been told that 3x is actually like a great number to get for. Well, okay, so but like, are you profitable at 3x? Yeah, I am. How do you know? Well, I've got money left at the end of the month. Well, okay, great, but like, you need to know to the T, right? Because if it's not now, things will break in the future. And when things do break, you need to find security in your numbers. Now, moving on to the next point, paid ads, just like any sort of outbound channel, is a way for you to get predictability and consistency within your business. Organic is what patches the gaps and helps you be more profitable than anybody else. I'll repeat that. Paid social, paid ads, outbound acquisition channels are meant to help you get predictability. When it comes to organic, it's there to help you make a profit. So here's what I mean by this. It's not that paid ads is not going to be profitable. If you're going to do paid ads right, it should be profitable, but it's meant to be a scaling channel. And usually scale doesn't necessarily equate with very high margins, right? When you scale aggressively, at least, you're probably going to have slightly thinner margins. And that's what tends to happen when you're spending a lot of money on paid ads, or at least when you try to increase money spent with paid ads. Whereas organic comes in to supplement your paid ads effort. One of the leading traits in all of our best client case studies we've had at the agency is within businesses that were thriving organically. And there's various reasons why. First of all, organic and paid are very much intertwined. And that is true, by the way, for local businesses, e-commerce businesses, coaches, info products, SaaS, name it. Here's why. When you run paid ads, one of the first things that people do when they see an ad on their feed, they're like, who is this person? They'll click on the profile and they'll go and start snooping around on your content, right? They'll want to make sure that they get familiar with you because they probably don't trust you yet. Some of these people might end up clicking on your website and buying now, but others will maybe follow you, or they'll wait until they see another ad in the future, or perhaps they'll just keep seeing your content pop up here and there on their feed until they eventually buy. So organic increases conversion rate from ads. On the flip side, the more organic content you do, so hypothetically speaking, you're posting a lot of reels on Instagram. Well, that means you're reaching new eyeballs every day for free, right? Assuming you're not paying anybody anything, or there's no salary, there's no content creator on your team, you're doing all the content yourself, you're getting free reach organically. Well, by getting this reach, people are now interacting with your content. They're becoming engagers. Well, guess what? When you run ads, Facebook will start by targeting anybody who's warm, which means anybody who's already showed interest in your content. Facebook knows that. Why? Because of your pixel. It knows who's been keeping an eye out on your videos. It knows video viewers. It knows engagers. It knows anybody who's following you but doesn't yet have purchased. It has all of this data. Therefore, the more organic you run, the warmer your overall market and audience becomes, which helps reduce your costs with your ads. And one, again, keeps fueling the other. So with that being said, every single brand that we've seen running organic content has inevitably became a lot more profitable with their ad spend. This is the difference between a brand that might be running at a 2 to 3x blended ROAS, which means total Shopify revenue divided by total ad spend, right? 2 to 3x ROAS, that's typically a brand that is like heavily spending on ads or heavily reliant on ads. Whereas when I see a brand at a 4, 5, even a 6x blended, then that typically either means that one, they're underspending because probably they could spend more and grow faster, or two, that they just have a very healthy organic traffic source. Moving on my next point, know the game that you're playing. That too is an incredibly important part of paid ads. Know the game that you're playing and know why you're running ads. I'll give you an example again, according to the e-commerce space. I've had a lot of brand owners running ads, but then being afraid of scaling. Like, we're profitable. We've run all the numbers with them. We know to the T that we are profitable. They look at their P&L every month. They are profitable. And then we're like, why aren't we scaling? And then typically they'll answer, well, honestly, I don't know. And then we'll start scaling and then they'll be afraid. They're like, oh, well, I don't know. Margins are a little thinner now. And like, I'm not sure. And then always comes the question, what's your goal? What do you want with your business? You want this to become a big business, small business? How do you want to acquire clients? With ads, with organic, with, like what channel, right? Like Facebook, TikTok, Google, like what do you want? Know what you want and how you want it. Very important with that, right? I could decide tomorrow morning to build a brand and build it entirely organically because I'm like, hey, I want to build a very profitable business. I want this business to be relying on myself. I don't like to have staff. I don't like to work with people. I know how to do website stuff pretty good. I know how to do product design pretty good. I'm just going to find myself a supplier and like a 3PL. They'll handle the fulfillment. And I'm just going to bang out organic videos and just grow this brand by myself because I want profits and I want to maximize the amount of profits I make organically. Great. Others, it might be, well, I need to make $10,000 a month net profit no matter what to feed myself and my family. And I'm cool with that. Like, that's how much I need my brand to make me every month. Amazing. There's nothing wrong with that either. But know the game that you're optimizing for. Always be true to yourself and clear about where you're going with your ads. Or else this leads to disconnect and this leads to erratic decisions and a lot of volatility within your results. And typically, especially when things start looking a little bad, which they will, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when running ads, things will dip at some point. Well, you'll become a lot more stressed if you don't know where you're aiming for because you've always just kind of somewhat maintained yourself at that level. Now, moving on to the next point, what social media channel or what paid ads channel should you go into first? So it's a question that comes back a lot from clients, from consulting students, from people on the channel. What social media channel should you go on first to advertise? Well, listen to this. In the e-commerce space, according to Triple Well's report of all Shopify stores that they've analyzed, which is well over, I think it was $11 billion in e-commerce revenue analyzed over 2023, about 67% of the pool of clients they've analyzed put their ad spend towards Meta. About 23 or 25% of this pool of people put their ad spend towards Google. And then about 4 to 5% put their ad spend towards TikTok. If you're following the math, we're getting real close to 100% now. The rest was divided amongst Bing, Taboola, and all other channels that exist out there. So with that being said, what that shows you is that e-commerce is very meta focused. But if you stop at this data, you might think that Google is not a good option. Well, listen to this. When you look at the advertising revenue that Google makes as a business, they make twice as much advertising revenue, or almost, as Facebook does in a year, which means technically there's more people advertising on Google than there's on Facebook. But now you might say, well, that probably means that Google is more saturated. It's not. So let me explain myself. For e-commerce businesses, your eyeballs and people with the highest purchasing power are typically on Meta. Meta is encompassing of Facebook and Instagram. Why is that? Why am I not saying TikTok ads first? Isn't TikTok the new thing? Look, listen to this. There's a reason why people spend more on Meta than they do anywhere else in the e-commerce space. First of all, Meta has an average order value in 2023 of about $91. TikTok has an average order value of about $40, which means we found typically that businesses in the e-commerce space with a less than $50 average order value tend to find good results on TikTok, whereas anybody with the $40 to $50 AOV or more tends to find much better results on Meta. So again, I'm going to repeat that. If you're below $50 in AOV, TikTok. If you're above $50 in AOV, Meta. Does that mean if you're below $50 in AOV and you want to advertise on Meta, you can't? No. Now, I'm going to add some restrictions to that. TikTok works great if you have virality in your product. If you have something that could really pick up fast, something that you could spin into a trend, great for TikTok. Second of all, TikTok, in my opinion, is a better organic channel than it is an ads channel. TikTok is amazing for content distribution. Virality takes place a lot more on TikTok than it does on any other channel. If you go viral on TikTok, you will go viral for some time and you'll see a huge influx in sales. And with the TikTok shop features that TikTok has, great platform. Again, if you have virality around a product of yours. Now, TikTok is also best if you have a slightly younger demographic. It's not true anymore that it's only 18-year-olds on TikTok. No, the demographic has started to spread out a little bit, but it is still true that the demographic is younger on TikTok than it is on Meta. So if you came here and you're like, well, I want to advertise to seniors, or I want to advertise to anybody who's 40 plus, then I would say just, dude, go strictly with Meta. Don't even worry about TikTok. Whereas if you're like, I solely want to target 18 to 24-year-olds, TikTok, or I want to target 18 to 35, TikTok could still work. Now, going back to Meta, to me, it's like the S&P 500. It's a safe bet. It's a safe bet. It's proven. It's been live as a channel for years in itself, and it combines various stages of awareness, which means this. People on Meta are open to consideration to buy. They're in the mindset to which they might want to make a buying decision. But also some people are on Meta to just browse. To browse and be inspired. You have a very wide range of people browsing the platform. You have the ones browsing it to get inspired. You have the ones browsing it to get in touch with friends and families. You have the ones doing it for business, and you have the ones doing it to shop. TikTok, on the other hand, is very much more entertainment focused. TikTok is fast paced. That's one of the reasons why the AOV is lower. AOV is lower, not just because the audience is younger, so they have less purchasing power. Yes, that is true. That is a fact. But the AOV is also lower because people are scrolling. They're in this doom scroll pattern. It's so like ADHD focused. It's so like fast paced. They can't sit down for like a few seconds and think, do I want to buy this new vacuum for like $400? No, they're not going to think about that on TikTok. On Meta, they might. Just with the way the platform has been designed and with stats, again, over the last year of data across $11 billion in e-commerce data, we can see that people have a lot more consideration when buying on a platform like Meta. Now, Google in itself, who should go on Google? Google is a capture platform. Paid social, which when I say paid social, that is Meta and TikTok, those are consideration platform. Google is a capture platform, which in other words means it is there to catch the low-hanging fruits. So if you are advertising in a very warm market where there's a lot of people actively searching or intentfully looking for a solution like yours, Google Ads is a low-hanging fruit. It's usually easy money to capture, easy money to profit off of. So I think personally, every business should have at the very least low-budget Google Ads running, which will capture those low-hanging fruits. I think that Google Ads is a great way for local businesses to dominate their market. So when you run Google Ads or Google like SEO, when it comes to like Google My Business, amazing way to get started in the local business space. So my advice for pretty much the one platform that kind of fits all the boxes for everyone is Meta, for the reasons mentioned. If you go purely with a younger audience, you have a lower price product that has a virality aspect, TikTok. If you're a local business, I'd say start with Google. And anybody watching that just wants to capture low-hanging fruits, Google Ads. Now moving on to the next point, which is how much budget do you need to actually advertise online? How much budget do you need before expanding to more than one ad channel? So my advice, which is going to be purely e-commerce focused in this video, I would not start ads unless you have at least $1,500 a month ready to throw and burn for about 6 months plus on Meta first. Again, I would start with Meta ads first. I would start with $50 a day bare minimum. And I would do so simply because this is usually just what you need to have at the very least like 1 or 2 ads running to break even or make some profit as an e-commerce brand. Let's take the average brand, which has an average order value of around $50 to $60. Well, assuming you have 50% cost of goods, that means at best for you to break even, you need to acquire one purchaser for about $25. Well, if you're going to be spending $50 a day and you hope to be making a little bit more than break even, then you are probably going to expect to get maybe 2 to 3 sales a day, which is all things considered quite low volume. You need to feed data to the algorithm. You need to feed data to the platform to help it learn more. So you do need some level of budget in order to help the platform learn more about your customers and who you're targeting. So I wouldn't start lower than $1,500 a month. Now, I would scale one ad channel all the way to $10,000 a month in ad spend, minimum, bare minimum, before expanding to another ad channel. I hear that too. I'll often audit some small businesses' ad account. They'll be spending $2,000 a month on Facebook, then $3,000 a month on Google, then $1,000 a month on TikTok. And they're like, I'm not scaling. I don't know why it's not working. Well, it's because you're spread too thin. You're trying, like, you're not realizing that the audience behaves slightly differently on all of these platforms, and you're tapping into slightly different pockets of your audience into these different platforms, and your strategy is not congruent, and you're just spread thin because truth is, if you're only spending less than $10,000 a month. You probably don't have a big team, which means that you can't really afford to have teams focusing on each channel and really dedicate their time to growing each channel. So therefore, you should just not explore that option. My advice is get one channel to 10K a month in ad spend minimum, which probably means that if you're at 10K a month in ad spend, you're spending about $300 a day. You have enough budget now to test and also scale your winners. You are probably in a spot where now you should be profitable, hopefully, when running ads. And once you've achieved that, then start embracing new sales channel and start scaling quote unquote horizontally before scaling vertically again. So my next piece of advice is more to media buyers out there, anybody who's like very data focused. Don't spend too much time looking into what I call soft metrics. That's one of the things where I've seen many media buyers I've hired. So a lot of juniors have hired at first, they're coming into accounts and they're very bogged down by like CPMs and click-through rate and like hook rate and hold rate and like all of these metrics that I consider quote unquote soft metrics. Now, I see, and believe it or not, I see people being extremely worried because they have a 3x ROAS, which I'm like, is it profitable or not? They're going to tell me, yes, it is. But like my CPM is super high and my click-through rate is way too low and my hold rate is not what I want it to be. And I'm like, well, stop. Does that matter? You're profitable. Who cares? Hard metrics are whatever you're optimizing for. So your cost per acquisition, your cost per lead, your cost per book call, your cost per show up, your whatever metric you're going to be optimizing for, that is usually going to be CAC. Like most businesses, they optimize for CAC at the end of the day, which means customer acquisition cost. Because think about this. If you're working with the local businesses or you're a local business yourself, well, you acquire leads, but your goal is not to just get leads because leads are not money. Your goal is to turn these leads into appointments, turn these appointments into sales. Well, what a lot of marketers don't realize is that some ads, and same is true for e-commerce businesses. We're almost getting into Black Friday, Cyber Monday season now. And I'm going to see tons of e-commerce businesses start to run hype up lead generation campaigns to fill up their VIP list in hopes of making more money during Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Well, look, a lead is not a customer. There's a certain percentage of your leads that will become customers. And not all leads are created equal. Some leads are going to have a higher quality and higher purchase intent than others. So if you're going to be running lead ads, well, you probably should track your CAC, which you'll be often surprised to see that certain ads have a much higher cost per lead than others. And you might think, wow, this is outside of KPI, I need to kill it. But when you look in the back end, all the leads coming from this one ad are actually much more qualified and they convert at such a higher rate than the other ad that this ad is actually more profitable to your business than anything else. That is what I mean by a hard metric. A hard metric usually is the lowest metric in the funnel. That metric is what dictates whether your ad works or not. Going about a business that needs to acquire leads to make money. You start with CAC, so customer acquisition cost per ad that you run. How do you track that? Hyros, as an example, is a great software to help you track this. And then you go up. You go to cost per appointment, then cost per show up, and you go, to cost per lead, cost per qualified lead, and then you go back to like your cost per click, your click-through rate, your CPM. And then if CAC is good, but any of these other metric is not, it does not matter. You're profitable. That's it. You could iterate. You could try and make a new variation to make more money, but with that being said, it is not going to make or break your business as much as just focusing on hard metrics. So don't get too bogged down with click-through rates, with CPM, with cost per click. They are important sometimes. There are specific instances where you should focus on them, but they're not the first thing nor the one thing that you should be looking at when advertising. Now, my next point is a variation of how should I adapt the algorithms, or what should I do now that AI is rising? Questions that I get a lot by customers or clients at the agency. In fact, there's often also agency owners being worried that they're going to get replaced. In my experience over the last 4 years, what I'm seeing is that the skill gap is just getting much bigger now. Anybody who was purely focusing, to go back on points discussed today, anybody focusing on targeting, anybody focusing on product aware ads only, anybody focusing on that typically is going to get like washed out by the market. Anybody who's actually focusing on creating high converting ads, focusing on split testing offers, and perhaps even on helping on the funnel side of things is going to survive this period in time, if you want, where algorithms are constantly changing and where AI is rising. Moving on to the next point, one of the biggest tip I have for people listening is move up in awareness level that you are targeting with the positioning of your messaging, and you will tap into pockets of your audience that 80% of your customers, or 80% of your competitors, I should say, aren't tapping into. What does that mean? Most advertisers, once again, are running product-aware ads. Hey, here's my product, right? Here's a book I have. Buy it now, right? You should buy this book. Or, hey, get this book right now. Limited time only, limited supply, 10 books left. Get them for $10.99 today only. That's the variation that 99% of businesses are advertising into out there. It's not really convincing. It's all about the product. Take back the bridge example that I mentioned at the start of this video. If you take the bridge example, someone must cross the bridge in order to get to the product. That bridge is the marketing. If you focus solely on the product itself, then it's like, sure, but what you don't realize is that you have your bridge, but your bridge actually splits in a gazillion ways because there's a bunch more products and forks in the road, right? Your customer has a gazillion products of competitors to choose from. If you focus on your customer instead, and you focused on what is important to them, what moves them, their deepest market desire, right? Their deepest I want to statement. What will they tell themselves at night? What are they too afraid to tell themselves, right? What won't they tell themselves? And what can't they tell themselves? Which means, what are they so afraid to say? And then what won't they even say or think because it's so buried deep down, right? You have those thoughts at night. Everybody does, where there's like things that you know are true deep down, but it's like you don't even dare to experiment with that thought for a second. You just like, as soon as it pops in your mind, you just bury it. You're like, no, I can't think about this. Your customers have those too. Think about this when making your ad. Think about the persona for which you're creating an ad. Again, what do they desire, but how to speak to them, the positioning of your ad in itself. Are they unaware? Are they problem aware? Are they solution aware? Which means, how aware are they of their own desire of getting or of attaining that desire in itself? So I'll give you an idea. Someone's desire is, I want to make more money online. Me being unaware is, I don't know, I want to make more money online, or I don't even know why I should care about making more money online. I know it might be something that I could consider someday. Like, it was a thought maybe I had on a random Tuesday, but like I didn't really explore that thought fully. So I'm like unaware to my own desire. Problem aware is, fuck, I am not making enough money right now. I need to make more money ASAP. Now, solution aware is, I'm not making enough money online right now. I know of a few ways of making more money, but I don't know which one's right for me. Product aware is, I'm not making enough money online right now. I know of a few ways to make enough money online right now, but I know of yours, right? I know of your way to help me make more money online right now. And that's it. Most aware is, I know of all of these things, and I know of you personally as a business and as like an entity or as a person. I know exactly who you are, what you do, what your customers are saying. I just haven't gotten around to buying yet for whatever reason. So with that being said, most people, you'll realize they're operating in these last two awareness level. Hey, right, buy this product now. Well, now you assume that they know they need this product. You assume that they know of your product already. So you assume that all they need is to be convinced to buy. That's like what I call a corner seller, right? You've probably seen some of these people on the street, corner of the street, they're like, hot dog, everyone, right? Well, who is their target audience? People who are actively hungry and looking for a solution, and probably already know hot dogs, quite frankly, with you. Like, they're more than solution aware. They're aware of the product, right? Their desires is, I want to eat, right? I want to satisfy my hunger. And when thinking about this desire, they know that hot dogs and hot dog stands are a way to fix that, right? Of fixing or attaining this desire. That's what these hot dog sellers are doing on the corner of the street. Well, that's what most advertisers are doing. They're like, hey, buy my book. Everyone, buy my book. Get this now. Get it. Limited supply. 10% off. Get it now. They're assuming they're already looking for it. Most people are not, right? There's like, how many people, if like, and again, just to extrapolate, this is, I'd like to work in the extremes because I think it's easier to like give an example. But if you think about one of these hot dog sellers, right? Well, they're like, how many people out there are starting the day at 8 a.m. They probably don't want a hot dog already. They don't even know they're hungry because they just ate not long ago, but they will be hungry soon. And the hot dog seller knows that. So he could advertise to these people, right? He could advertise to someone like, look, you're about to get started with your work day. Next thing you know, you're getting into a meeting. And then Sarah comes over from the next cubicle, talks to you. And then you get into another meeting. And then next thing you know, you're already at 12 p.m. Your stomach is grumbling and you're hungry. And it's past the point where you're starting to not feel good. Well, don't let yourself get to that point. Buy a hot dog now. Between 10 and 11 a.m. we have a special discount for people buying hot dogs before the dinner rush or the lunch rush, whatever. Unaware, right? You're kind of talking about people who are like probably not knowing that they'll need a hot, or that they're going to be hungry soon, whatever, right? So it's like, when you advertise to a higher awareness level, you'll tap into a pocket of the audience that most competitors don't even dare exploring. And I think if you do that, you're also going to be a lot more profitable because, hey, I'm not saying don't run ads that say, buy my book now. But the ad that you will run that will say, buy my book now, will become a whole lot more profitable the day that you start running ads that are also talking to people higher up in awareness. Now, let's talk about retargeting. I have tons of people coming up to me and saying, Justin, should I do retargeting? Should I not do retargeting? Is this important? Is this not? Here's what I'll say. Every ad platform with all the best inclusions or exclusions in place, which means you're excluding your customers list. You're excluding anybody who's ever viewed an ad of yours. You're excluding all of these people. Even the best business or the best exclusions set up in place. What do you know? Your frequency on an ad is always going to be more than 1.00, which means that people are seeing the ad more than once, which means they're getting retargeted, which also means, going back to my point from earlier where I said creative is the new targeting. Well, if you use a product aware ad, if you use a most aware ad, you suddenly start to think about your funnel in a much different way. You start to think about the market more than about your funnel. Because when people think about retargeting, they're thinking about what they own, which is their audience. Like, these people, they already watch me, they already know me, they already know my stuff. Sure, right? They do. But here's the commonality, okay? Anybody who already knows you is most aware, usually. Anybody who already knows you, knows what you do, and knows who you are, they're probably already most aware. Anybody who somewhat knows you, somewhat knows what you do, somewhat knows what you offer, and knows of a few other competitors, probably is product aware. Maybe you're starting to see where I'm going with this. When you run ads that say, hey, buy my product now, the people that will buy your product now, they probably already know you. And if they don't, they know of other products similar to yours where you just came in at a better time with a better deal for them, so you're swooping them in. So what I say is, don't lock yourself into doing forced retargeting. Create product aware or most aware creatives. They will find their way to your current audience. And what wouldn't have happened is, if you locked yourself to retargeting only, you wouldn't have found people that are perhaps outside of this audience, but are still actively looking for a product like yours and would be converting just as well as anybody who is actively looking for your own products. So when I see people talking about middle of funnel or bottom of funnel and constraining their audiences, I feel it's a very limited or narrow way of looking into their ads, because now they're only going to profit off of the top of funnel traffic that they do, instead of profiting off of the top of funnel traffic that their entire market does. Here's what I mean by this. If you run middle of funnel ads, let's say you run social solution aware and product aware ads, and you're doing middle of funnel audiences, which would probably mean you're retargeting website visitors, you're retargeting Facebook and IG engagers, and you're excluding all of your customers. Well, then you're only advertising solution and product aware ads to people who, again, have taken action in your funnel. Okay, but again, how many solution and product aware people are out there in the market? Your competitors, right? Your competitors ran ads that created intent in the market, enhanced intent in your market. You're missing out on so many people that could be converting with these solution and product aware ads. So my advice to you is, don't lock yourself into retargeting, and think about not just your funnel, but your market as a funnel as a whole. So your competitors are running top of funnel ads, or your competitors are running bottom of funnel ads. And which, hey, what I'm even saying here is, the more top of funnel ads you run, the more profitable your competitors are going to become. And that's the saying that a lot of people are saying out there, right? You'd rather be the second best business in your market than the first one, because the first person is usually always having more headaches and usually slightly less profit than the number two. It happens, right? Because the number one is the one creating the most amount of intent, the one running the most amount of top of funnel traffic. Why? Because nobody else is above them in the market. They have to create their market. They have to pave their way through the market. So with that being said, this is one of the advantages of being a smaller guy in a market, or if you're now noticing where I'm going with this, to come into a crowded or an already sophisticated market. Very big advantage in going into a sophisticated market, because there's already intent being created in that market. So you also know, therefore, you can capture this intent by coming in at a lower awareness level than other people in that market. Now, if you made it this far through the video and you are an e-commerce brand owner making at least $50,000 a month with your brand, click the button down below and book in a call to speak with our team at paidadvertising.com today. If you're at less than $50,000 a month, and or you simply want consulting, you want someone to look into your ads and tell you what to do, where to click, and to help you navigate the woes of paid ads, click the second link in the description below and apply to join our ad engine consulting group today. On that note, I'm going to invite you to check out other videos on the channel for some more useful marketing tips, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.